So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for making time to attend this workshop. This is in continuation of the lecture last week, last Saturday. So, just for the information of everyone, we had this lecture last Saturday discussing what we are going to code or program for today. So, last week we had this lecture discussing how do we solve fine-grained visual classification for using decoupling. Okay, so decoupling is a technique that was discussed last Saturday, and today we are going to show, or we're going to have this workshop so that you will also learn how to implement this in code. Okay, so the title of today's technical workshop is Implementing Decoupling for FGVC Task with Noisy Labels. Let me just read to you the abstract of the presentation. Fine-grained visual classification involves classifying subjects with large similarities and small subtle differences in appearance. FGVC differs from most image classification tasks as it requires expertise to distinguish between two subjects that look very similar according to the average person with little to no experience in the domain. Despite advances in deep learning, creating large datasets with accurate annotations makes this a more challenging classification task. This workshop will tackle on the implementation of decoupling in the Jupyter Notebook following our lecture last time. So we already give you like the outline of the workshop, what would be discussed, and we also indicated some prerequisite knowledge that you need to understand before you go through this workshop. You will be provided a link of this notebook uh, towards the end of the presentation. So we thank everyone, especially those from our lab, the Center for Computational Imaging and Visual Innovations, for attending this workshop. I think we have attendees from the University of the Philippines, and I think a bulk of our visitors are from Pangasinan State University. So thank you for joining us this morning. Let me introduce to you our speaker for today. Our speaker for today is Kate Justine Ermitaño. Kate is a fourth-year student at De La Salle University pursuing a degree in Bachelor of Science, honors program in Computer Science and Master of Science in Computer Science. As a member of our lab in the Science Education Institute of the Department of Science and Technology, Merit Scholar, their area of research centers around fine-grained visual classification. Furthermore, they are also interested in areas such as object detection and data science. Kate served their sophomore and junior years partaking in the role of a tutor at the Peer Tutor Society, specializing in discrete structures, algorithms, and complexities, and mathematics. They also work as a technical writer at the TED House for their internship as a junior. So I think we are ready to hear the workshop, the programming part for Kate. Kate, you may now share your notebook. Thank you.
All right, hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
And can you see the screen? Okay. So before I go towards the notebook, I'm gonna do a quick review of what decoupling is and what is the problem with FGVC. So from last week, we discussed what FGVC is and how it works. So it's usually a task aiming to classify objects belonging to the same superclass. So if, without being an expert, how can we tell the difference between these four, right? It's a very challenging situation where you can't even tell the difference between these four aircraft without being an expert. So here we have some more applications for fine-grained classifications. Usually the problem here is we have to identify subclasses that look very similar but they're actually different. So here I have an example, a very famous example are dog breeds, because there are dog breeds that look very similar, like for example, a Shih Tzu and a Maltese. You can't even tell these two apart unless you are a professional. So here I am going to discuss what's going to be the challenge for FGVC. So usually the challenge for fine-grained classification involves high interclass, high interclass variability or same superclass virus differences, low interclass variability, which is a different class, but they look the same. Some more localized discriminative features. So these are the features that can tell each other apart. And then, of course, the challenges regarding the noisy labels and what makes data scraping from the internet problematic. So here, for example, I'm looking at a Boeing 747-8. So here I want to use web scraping to make my own data set. But the problem is there's going to be some unnecessary images that won't help the training process. So I'm going to discuss to you the solution, which is going to be decoupling. So what is decoupling? Decoupling is we change the update description. So from what's happening in the real updates, or the real training, sorry, when we're training a image classifier, we update only when the classifier's prediction is incorrect from its label. So at the end of the optimization, these updates are linked to noisy data. However, in decoupling, we train the two models and then only perform updates when their predictions do not match, which is where the area of disagreement occurs. Here I have a pseudocode about decoupling, which is what we're going to expand upon in the notebook. But here I'm going to show a quick review first of what the algorithm is going to do. So here I have an update tool, which is either going to be backpropagation or gradient descent. I have two models, which is either ResNet or EfficientNet. We go through all the images in the data set, retrieve an image, and then we feed it to both model 1 and model 2, get the predictions for model 1 and model 2, and then we check their predictions using an if-else statement. So if they're not the same, if they're both incorrect, we do perform updates. So for example, here, they're going to predict what this plane is about. So here, model 1 says 747-200, and the other is a dash 8. But they're actually wrong. So there won't be any updates because there is no disagreement because they're both wrong. But what if one of the models is correct and the other one is wrong? Well, we perform an update. So here I have another airplane, and then model 1 says it's 777-200, and then the other one says an Airbus A330-200. Sorry, this is model 2 actually, the green box. Well, which one of them is correct? Well, it's model 1. So here, when one of them is correct and then the other one is wrong, we make an update. But what if the predictions are the same, which means they're both correct? Well, we continue without any updates. So that's going to be the idea behind decoupling. So they have a vast difference between the regular image classifier, because in the regular classifier we only retrieve the image, we get the predictions, and then we form the updates, regardless if their predictions are correct or wrong. But in the coupling, we use some if statements to make sure they only update when one of the models is correct or when a disagreement occurs. So I'm just gonna skip ahead. So here I'm going to discuss what we're going to do in the notebook. So in this notebook, we're going to identify the subclass of the superclass Boeing 747 from the web aircraft dataset. So the challenges here are usually noisy data due to wave scraping, and then the solve differences, which I showed you before. So we have 5 subclasses, which is going to be the dash 100, the dash 200, the dash 300, the dash 400, and then the dash 8. So what's going to be our experiment? Well, the noise comes into the play due to misclassified subclasses and other images. So what happens is in some of the subclasses, like for example, in the 747 400, there are images that are from the 200, which is very confusing because what's going on in this data set is they use web scraping and then they just put 747-400, for example, and then some unnecessary images come in, which is making the dataset noisy. So what we're going to do is we perform data augmentation. We use the Torque Vision model such as ResNet 18 and EfficientNet Small with their default weights. We use the Adam optimizer and then the cross entropy loss since there are more than two classes. The models are first trained on images in sequence and then we evaluate on random images. Since I won't be running the experiment on the notebook since it's going to take us about 2 hours, I'm going to show the results. So here we show that about the earlier epochs until epoch 5, the ones with the coupling are performing higher than the ones without the coupling. Even though we're just going to ignore the end because well, the problem is there's going to be some, so I guess some overfitting. But here we can see that until from epochs 1 to 5, they're performing greatly. So I'm just going to skip ahead. Then of course I have the link to the notebook, which is maybe I can share today just for the ones who didn't have access. I'll put it in the chat. All right, there we go. So if you have any questions, you can just ask me ahead in the chat. So we're going to continue on in the notebook. So here I have the almost complete notebook, but we're going to touch on the hands-on part later on. But first, we're going to, I'm assuming everyone here knows how to build a basic image classifier, but I'm going to go through all of this step by step. So first, we're going to import Torque, since we're going to have to verify if we have CUDA available and PyTorch is updated. Because if we don't have CUDA or PyTorch, the results here are going to be false. So we have to make sure everything is working before we start training. Of course, we set the warnings to ignore because sometimes the warnings are just going to mess up outputs, the outputs because we don't want some messy yellow images floating around telling us that, oh, warning, there's something going on with the code. So here we want everything to be clean. So we just put filter warnings to ignore. Of course, we import the image file just to view the images. So first, we can download the complete data set, which is what I'm not going to be doing right now since it will take us about an hour to download this thing. So here, the entire data set has about, I'm guessing 36,000 images because there are 100 classes of aircraft available. So I'm not going to do that. Maybe you can do it in your free time na lang. Next, we import operating systems. We import the path so we can get the data set from our path, which is the path is where this entire notebook is located. So here I have the documents, the LSU, MS Labs, and I'm sorry, here I have the path to this specific notebook. So if we use always get current path, we take this path of where the notebook is and then we attach where the dataset is coming from. So my name of my dataset is Web Aircraft 4.2, which is located in another folder where this file is coming from. So here I printed, boom. This is where the dataset is located. Okay, next we're going to start building the image classifier. So here I'm going to, I think I already did this one. We're going to import pandas. We, I don't think this is really necessary. So basically what we're doing here is we're inspecting if our data is correct. So here I have the file names and then the model ID. Where I'm getting the preview of the head and then a preview of the tail. And then I'm getting a specific model, which is I'm just printing it out for everyone just to see if we're working on the correct data set. So here I have 131 images from the Boeing 747-200, which is evident in this one. So not that much images for one subclass, but this will do for the workshop, just so we can save some more time. Here I'm going to import some more statements. So here I have Matplotlib, CV2, Torque Vision, the dataset, the image folder, the transforms, and then the data loader. I'm going to start defining the helper functions, which is nothing to do with the training, but it's more of just exploring the dataset. Here we're going to start using data augmentation, which is useful for training since our data set is very small, like about 500 about images. We're going to artificially increase their size by adding data augmentation. Just so you know, just so the model can generalize better. We use the image folders just so we can retrieve where the path to the training data set is. Then we open the dataset, we preview it, boom, there's the images of our dataset, which is very small, but I think this is the this is our dataset. This is correct. So before we start training, we're gonna have to pre-process the dataset since the resolutions are not uniform, and we need the resolutions to be just as small for the model because we have to start saving some memory. We don't want to train on images that are very big, like 1,000 by 1,500. So here we have to scale the images to about 224 just so the model can absorb it better. So here's the data augmentation. We transform the images, we scale it down to about 224 by 224. This one, by the way, is the color channels, which is the RGB. So we don't have to worry about this for training. But now we're still focusing on EDA. Okay, so we're going to get the models from Torque Vision. So here I have them printed out. So we have AlexNet, we have some convex, we have some net, efficient net, and then some others like ResNet. Here I'm building the helper function for a classify model, which is where I'm going to get ResNet 18 from models, which is from here, all models. Then I'm going to have to wait or ignore this since I'm using the original dataset for mirror. I'm going to change this to 5 since we only have 5 subclasses. Here I have ResNet available. Then I define the loss function, which is the cross entropy loss. And then before we start training on the large dataset, we only start training on a lesser dataset just to make sure it works. So here I have this is the standard image classifier. Hindi pa siya yung decoupling. We're just testing if everything works first. So how do I tell it works? Well, they have to show up. This message has to show up to tell that it's working. I'm assuming everyone knows how to build an image classifier. Okay, so another import scalar, we get the accuracy, and then another helper function which is we're going to call ResNet or EfficientNet. Some more data augmentation. We get the path to the training and testing data. We load the data using data loader. And then we just set CUDA launch blocking to 1, just in case we need to debug something. Okay, so here's the testing ground, which is where I'm going to expand upon. So here I'm going to start testing on ResNet 18 first with 5 subclasses. So here I have the standard image classifier without decoupling. So what's happening is we train the model for 10 epochs. We go through the data set. We retrieve the images and then the labels. We feed it to the model, which is ResNet 18. We optimize, we set the loss function and then update it backwards. So basically just standard image classification. So here it's not displaying, but here I have the results for ResNet 18 after training on the dataset for 10 epochs. So here we're getting the accuracy up until about 40s, 45, sorry. So not a very good result, but we're getting close since the problem here is noisy data. So ganyan talaga ang result niya since noisy siya. Expect natin na mababa pa since since baksak yung model natin sa noise. I'm going to do the same thing for EfficientNet, which is I use data augmentation, so on and so forth. I just changed the model to ResNet. Then of course the results, which is still about 47, 45. Not very good, but we're still going to start improving it. So here we're going to do some learning where we combine the two models and then we train them together. So here's the version without decoupling. We take note this is just the basic image classifier, just so we get a hang of it first before we implement the decoupling. So okay, we're going to call model 1, model 2. We set it to the device, we train the models, then loss function, optimizer, so on and so forth. Here is where things get interesting. So here we're going to start the training for 10 epochs. We run to the data set, do the same thing as the previous training, which is, of course, we get the predictions and then do updates, do everything necessary. So here I have the results for both the models, model 1 and model 2. So nag-start siya from 40%, 31%, up until about 46 and then 46%. But what if we implement decoupling? Here I have the code for decoupling, which is the same, except we're going to make some modifications on the update tool, which is why we have to introduce an if else statement, just like the ones I showed earlier in the slides. So after we get the predictions, we have to check whether they have any disagreements. So here We check the predictions of model 1 and model 2. We check if they're not equal, and then we set the results to disagreement. So if there are any disagreements, we make the updates on the loss, we do backwards propagation, we update the weights, and then accumulate the loss. But what if they do not have any disagreements, which is if either model 1 and model 2 are both correct, or model 1 and model 2 are both incorrect. So if no disagreement, we just set the loss to about 0. No updates whatsoever. So we do the same thing. We train the models and then boom, we see the results. Which is I put it in the visuals from earlier on these slides because I don't think it's easy to understand such numbers. So here's the image instead for if you're going to start comparing the one without the coupling and then the one with the coupling. So here the two models with the coupling, they start performing better at around epochs 2, 3, 4, and 5. I sorry, what happened there? And then up until around about epoch 6, I think medyo okay pa. Around epoch 7, medyo nag-overfit na siya since sobrang late ng dataset. So, okay, what are we going to do now? So here I'm going to, let's do the hands-on if everyone has the notebook already. But I think we can rewatch the recording naman so far. And does anyone have access to the, Google Drive, sorry? Kasi baka limited lang siya sa Lasal, sorry. May paki-check lang and then we can start. Okay, we can access. Since sinabi ni Sir Aaron na there are students from other universities. So I was worried about that baka DLSU email lang ang may access. So here I have we perform data augmentation. We get the paths to the training models, the training data and then the testing data. We load the data, which is we set the batch size to 8 for now since medyo mababa yung memory ko. And then set number is to 4. Bakit 4? Eh, my CPU has 4 cores. So if I want to use all the 4 cores, I'm going to set it to 4. Depende sa inyo, baka may iba sa inyo ang cores dalawa o kaya 8. But here for now, I'm going to be using 4. Persistent workers, I'm not sure since minsan nagkaka-error kasi minsan kapag ni-train wala. Pero other times meron. Bigla na lang nagkaka-error. And then of course, I'm going to use exponential learning rate. We get the models, which is we set the model name to ResNet 18 and then EfficientNet. We move the models to this device, which is my NVIDIA GPU. We start training the both models. We set the loss function to cross entropy loss. We set we set up the Adam optimizer, set up the scheduler to exponential learning rate, of course setting up for the results. So here I'm going to start filling up this part since this is the one where it makes a difference. So the task here is we have to fill the code with that training data. So ano ang first step kapag gumagawa ng image classifier? So ang first is we move the data to the device, which is yung device yung GPU ko. So kasama na dyan yung image, pati labels. Ano ang sunod sa image classifier? Siyempre, we zero out the gradients first for each model, so on and so forth. We do forward pass for ResNet, pati EfficientNet. Basic pa, wala pa tayo sa if else statement. And then, prediction. Pero ano gagawin after ng prediction? Para magiging ibase the coupling to the ones, how is the coupling different from the one without the coupling? Here's the difference. We start comparing. Okay, where's the pseudocode? Sorry, nagalag na yung computer. What's the difference between the image classifier and then the one with the coupling? Siyempre, may if else statement na tayo. So, okay, what do we do with predictions 1 and 2? Okay, we compare the predictions of model 1 and model 2, and then we see if they're going to be equal or not equal. So I set it here to not equal since we're interested in disagreement. They both have to have different answers. So what's going to be the next step? Well, we check their predictions, and what if they have a disagreement? What are we going to do if they have a disagreement? Okay, we update the loss. We perform backpropagation. Okay, we update the loss and then accumulate the losses from model 1 and model 2. Okay, that one, this one only happens if they have disagreements. Pero ano gagawin kapag same yung results nila? Like, what are we going to do if their predictions are both correct or both incorrect? So if there's an if statement, there should be an else statement. Okay, may else statement. And what do we do if they are both incorrect or correct? Since we're focused on disagreements, we don't do anything to the loss function or optimizer. We don't up we don't do any updates for the models. We just set them to 0. So ang pinakamalaking difference ng the one with decoupling and then the one without decoupling is we, instead of filing every update here, we use the if else statements. Since here in the regular image classifier, we still perform updates regardless if they have the same answers or different answer. But here in decoupling, we are interested in predictions that do not match. Okay, so what if we start running this? Hold on a second. I'll run everything pa. Okay, before we run the model that we did for the Hanson. Sorry, I forgot this one. If anyone has questions, you can start asking now while we go wait for this to finish. Okay. Since andyan na yung progress bar. Antayin pa natin matapos. Okay, and anyone have any questions first before we do anything? Yung ano pala, yung Google Drive, I might have to make updates there since medyo outdated yung notebook na nandun. So, by the time we finish the workshop, hopefully I'll upload this notebook so that everyone can experiment with the notebook. Yung, might as well, use the complete data set, which is what we're not going to do since 36,000 images yan. Ayan, walang time. I already tried this before without decoupling. Hulaan nyo, gaano katagal ang training nun. Umabot ako sa 3 oras just for the entire 20 epochs. So nope, we're not going to do that for now. Tagal niya. Yan, mabilis na siya. Okay, yun, man. I'm hoping this works since nag-true na yung CUDA. Okay, it works. Okay, we're safe. We're safe. So, okay, I'll start running the data augmentation, the image folder. I'm going to start loading the data, import the library. Okay, it works since na-print na siya. So we got ResNet and EfficientNet from PyTorch. We put it to the device. We set them to train. We set the loss function, the optimizer, the scheduler, the library, and of course, hopefully this still works. I'm going to show it lang pero di natin tatapusin lahat to since I think 10, I think 1 hour ang training niya since 10 epochs. But hopefully yung progress bar mag-work siya. So if there's progress showing, it means it's working. Okay, so we only have about few minutes left before we finish. So does anyone have any questions before? Right. Sir Aaron, may question po kayo?
Could you tell us about, if you could scroll up since we're waiting for the training process?
Here, it's working na may progress bar sa.
Yeah. But could you tell us about yung meron kang nag-normalize ka dun sa taas, dun sa images? Um, I think it's just not in the first part, but when you're normalizing and when you were doing the data augmentation part.
Okay, okay. Data augmentation part.
Yeah, this one, yung
Okay.
normalization. Why do we need to do that?
Well, usually we have to normalize since there are there are data na nag-spike siya, hindi siya below 1 or something. What happens kasi if we visualize it on the graph na nagkaka-outlier siya, so it affects the rest of the data. So here we have to normalize them para uniform yung data natin. Here I have to resize them. I do random crop, horizontal flip, and so on. Pero pwede ito ibahin. Just, just na lang. Everyone can experiment on the notebook to their liking lang.
Yes, correct. So in terms of the normalization, where did we get the values of the mean and the standard deviation?
Usually, I am so sorry about this.
Yeah, but this one, just for the information of everyone, we normalize the data set because we want to make sure that they are of the same scale. Most of the time, the values, when you load it here in the transform, when you load it here, the values are still using the RGB values, which are large numbers. Numbers from, if I remember correctly, it's from 0 to 255. We do not want those type of numbers. So we need to scale it down. We need to get smaller numbers. And that is what normalization is doing. Okay? These numbers are the mean value, the RGB, mean value of the ImageNet dataset. Okay? Itong standard deviation, that is also the standard deviation of the RGB of the ImageNet dataset. So this is SOP, standard operating procedure. When you are loading a dataset, you need to normalize it first, okay, using these numbers. Can we look at the training again sa baba? Baka tapos na siya. Okay, so it's now evaluating.
Yeah, and then we have the accuracy na. Pero medyo long pa siya. There's like 37 minutes. I'm not going to finish everything,
Yeah,
but it goes to show that the coupling works.
okay. So
So that's
probably
our
attendees can run this notebook after the session para they can train it on their own as well.
yes. Yes, they can use a different data set for this one, especially yung mga dog breeds, yung mga faces, yung I'll go show it again. The ones talaga na mukhang pareho-pareho. Like I remember from last week, someone asked us about identifying the age of the persons
Mm,
using fine grained data classification. I'm sorry, image classification.
yeah. There's a question here from Ferds. Hello, question po. What part of the code does the sorting of the images come into play? How do you deploy this type of model into your web scrape images to retrieve wanted images? When you say sorting, it's in the you're asking about sorting during the training process. Tama ba? Like how are
Um,
they sorted? Is that correct, Ferds?
I'm not sure if this is the one they're referring to, yung so data loader, if we have to shuffle them or not.
Okay, let's wait for the clarification before we answer this. Ano yung sorting?
Hello po. In my mind po kasi, this type of image classification, yung primary application lang niya po is in sorting po yung noisy images
Mm,
from the web scrape images that you have previously mentioned last week.
yeah.
So I'm curious more on how this can be deployed in specific applications po. katulad po ng binanggit po ni Kate na
Okay.
on the airplanes.
Okay.
So, if you can briefly expound more on how this can be applied on that application, but I will really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ferds. I think the question, Kate, is if you could answer this, how can we sort between the noisy ones and yung okay na images? I think that's the main point of the question. Can you answer that, please?
Okay, naka-off pala yung mic ko. So what happens kasi there are moments na when I first start the dataset, there are noisy labels. So what I do is I have to manually check the dataset. If what happens here, sorry, I'll share the screen of my dataset. Hold on. Kasi what happens is there are noise in my dataset, like there are images of cockpits. So I have to check it manually. And if I do find the images, either I have to delete them or I have to replace it with another image from online. Hold up, I have to look for the dataset. Okay, here. I'll go share my screen to just to show everything na lang, hindi na lang yung one window. Here I have yung dataset, which is I have 5 classes. I'll just open the one with the noise. So here I have the images for the Dash 300. So nasaan yung noise? Here, this one. Meron akong image ng cockpit, which is the one I do not want or do not need in this dataset. Pero in-include ko pa siya dito just for the training, since ang concern natin dito is noisy labels. Kapag kasi ang nangyayari, since I did the same approach, decoupling on clean dataset, medyo hindi maganda ang performance niya compared to the basic image classifier. Yung kasi sa clean dataset, tinanggal ko na lahat ng noise, na-replace ko na yung images, then everything is correct. But the problem is, if we apply decoupling, there won't be any disagreements. So, hindi siya mag-update gaano, which is what we discussed last week. If both of them do not disagree, there won't be any updates. And what happens if there are no updates? Well, magiging stagnant yung learning niya. Hindi matagal mag-reach yung convergence. So, where is it? I'm going to,
If I can redirect you back to the question is, how do we determine which are noisy and which are not noisy images? So could you explain to our participants what's the what part of the code yung makakapag-distinguish whether it's a noisy example or not a noisy example? Kasi parang nakikitang application dito is, oh, what if we're going to deploy this and we connect this to a web scraper. Tapos, what we want is just to get those wanted images, the images that we wanted, instead of getting those noisy. So, Ferds is asking, how are we going to use this such that we can separate when we scrape images from the web, how are we going to separate those unwanted from the wanted images?
well, I can't say for certain since I didn't do any wavescaping a dataset, and then here we're not filtering all the noisy data. We're using the noisy data here in this training with decoupling. So I can't say for certain that there's any application here for this dataset.
Pero just to answer the question, if we could single out instances in the dataset that we have, pwede mong siguro, you could use this part after training the model, then probably you could use this part to determine which are the tag quote-unquote noisy images. Kasi this part assumes that if the predictions are not equal, then most probably these examples are noisy. So I would imagine, just to answer the question of Ferds, if we are going to sort or to identify in our data set which of the images are unwanted or noisy, it would be the part which activates this part of the code. Did I answer the question? Dito siya magfo-fall under. Okay. Yeah. But kasi the use case of decoupling is not really on the identification of unwanted images. It is making sure that your model still trains properly, na mag-train yung model mo properly even if there are noisy labels. That's the intention of decoupling. So probably at this point, decoupling is not used for filtering out those unwanted images, but you could probably identify it by looking at yung mga papasok nga doon sa if statement na yon. But right now, the goal of decoupling is to make sure your model trains properly even if we have noisy labels. Okay? Thank you for that question. Any other questions from the participants while we are waiting? It's almost done. Patapos na, no? Thank you.
No, I don't think we can wait for 30 more minutes, 35 minutes. Well, I'll just skip ahead lang. So here we have another question. Will increasing the number of models improve the performance? Go look it up. Saan yung number of models? Oh, you mean number of models? Like if I introduce another model para maging tatlo siya, like I'll train 3 models?
Yeah, I think that's the question. What do you think?
Well, increasing the performance, well, even though you can think that they will increase the performance, like if I introduce another model here, the problem is going to be the memory. Since limited ang memory ko, limited lang ako sa dalawang models for now. Since 16 GB is very small compared to this training. Here kasi medyo humihina na yung memory ko, umabot na sa around 8 gig, even though 2 models lang siya. So it would depend on the specs that you have. Yes, you can increase the number of models to improve performance, but you're going to start downgrading the memory. And I don't want that to happen since limited ang hardware ko na yun.
Okay. But do you think it will increase the performance? Not talking about the restrictions in memory. What do you think is the effect of increasing the number of models?
If you increase the models, well, it depends slightly on the models since there are some models na nagka-clash sila masyado o kaya nagdi-disagree. So it will depend. Minsan, if I introduce another model, the results are still going to be the same.
Yeah.
Na like around nasa, I think the average of this one is around 50%, 40%.
Yeah.
So ang performance na halos magiging same lang. You're just using more parameters and memory.
I haven't really tested that out. Just to answer the question, by default, if you're adding more models, that would entail more computations. Tama si Kate regarding that one. But you have to think about, is adding another model really that worth it in terms of adding more computations but getting dismal amount of boost in the performance? So it's a trade-off. By default, sa ensemble models, when you say ensemble, we have multiple models. It should increase. Okay? By my experience, adding a second model, so first model, then you added another one, the boost is bigger as compared to if you're adding already your fourth model. When you're adding your fourth or fifth model, so you have five models working together, the performance boost is a little bit more dismal. No, it's not anymore increasing in a the trade-off between adding more computations and for that very dismal performance boost is not anymore worth it, if I may say. But in terms of decoupling, I haven't really we haven't really done experiments testing out multiple models, like three different models. One thing that I can think of, if you have more models, there are more chances that they will disagree with each other. Tama? So, in that case, baka mas tumagal yung yung training process because you have um more models to check whether they are agreeing with each other. We can test that. We can try it out to test whether that would still improve the performance. So yeah, let's go back to Kate. Can you talk about your model now?
Well, for now, I'm going to pause muna since nag-lag na po yung Zoom ko due to low memory. So, based on my experience, if I use the same model, like I have two models pero pareho sila ResNet, mas nagiging worse yung performance niya compared to the standard image classification ng yung here, this one, but I'll change this one to ResNet. Nagiging worse since same na yung models, magiging same yung prediction nila. So, wala ganong updates na ang nangyari. But here, if I use different models like ResNet and Efficient, may mga nagkakaroon siya ng disagreement. But if we're going to use the same model, like they're both ResNet or both EfficientNet, the chances of disagreement will sort of decrease since they kind of agree on the same thing. Like, parang same brain sila. So if nakita nila yung model ng aircraft, they're both going to say, oh, that's a Dash 400. And then the other one is going to say Dash 400 too. But here, si ResNet, kung na sinabi niya Dash 400, si EfficientNet, Dash 200, nakaka-disagreement na sila. So that's my experience kapag gumamit ng dalawang models pero same yung model. I'm not sure if using three or more models will improve the performance since limited yung memory ko. But for those who are going to take this home, they can experiment with the notebook. Like kahit nga 10 models, sige, gawin nyo kung marami kayo memory. My apologies sa iba, but I have to pause the training kasi since medyo low na ako sa memory. And I don't want something bad to happen to my computer kasi baka mag-crash siya eh. It happens sometimes. So yeah, I stop it for now until ano lang siya. Epoch 3. But at home, you can continue the training until Epoch 10. And then you can discuss the results. For now, hindi na muna since 33 minutes ang kailangan just to finish 10 epochs. But for now, we have some results. So 31%, 26%, 38%, 30%. So medyo nag-i-increase na siya. So we're about to achieve almost the same effect as of this one sa graph. But for now, I'll just pause muna for training.
Okay. So just to summarize, can you explain what happened to the accuracy aside from the like the accuracy that we're seeing right now. So that we can conclude the workshop.
Yeah, come again, sir. Medyo naging choppy po siya.
Can you please summarize the accuracy that we were able to get so that we can close the workshop?
Okay, so here, after I got the training, we're achieving some sort of great accuracy. So we're starting at around the 30 or 20%, and then they start to increase by the time we change the epochs to +1, +1. So here, medyo nasa 40% range na siya. But here, if we complete the training, we're going to reach about the 55% mark in here around epoch 5. So hopefully the same results will happen here once we finish the training.
Okay.
But now we're not going to finish training. But here's the
The
expected
final,
results.
yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Sige. So we're kind of expecting when we continue the training at home, we should see something similar in this graph.
Yes, like mas
Okay.
mabilis ang decoupling.
Okay. Any other questions before we end our session for today since it's already 12?